Welcome to this edition of the Men's Room. I'm really excited. We have Bob Wischer with us, and he is a relationship engineer. So we have something in common. And he's going to be talking to us about how he founded the Men Becoming Better Men, which I think is an absolute wonderful thing. I mean, what better way to help another man to become even better? And so with that, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself and really how you got into this work. What inspired you along the way?
Yeah, really just about what I like to do is help men transform, depending on where they're at in their current life. If they're just starting out and realizing, kind of waking up to the fact that, wow, I'm either battling depression or I'm battling an addiction or I'm, maybe coming out of a divorce or something like that. There's a lot of men in that realm, and then there's guys that are kind of kind of beyond that point where they've okay, I've hit my rock bottom and I've started to climb back out of it, and I understand what personal growth is, personal development. And then there's obviously people that have been doing it for years and decades that so I see it as kind of three tiers of men, and that's kind of where I've set up to cater to all of them at this point. Um, how I became the relationship engineer is I've been working in the automotive industry here in the Detroit area for over 30 years. And what I realized as I began my coaching side business, that the two things kind of went hand in hand. Um, what I've done for 30 years is basically built relationships between different entities within the industry and help people communicate, help people get things done. And once I started coaching, it really became apparent to me that that's really all of what I want to do with men at this point is help them build better relationships with their spouses, their families, their within their jobs, and primarily with themselves. Because that's, you asked earlier about turning point. That's kind of where the turning point was for me, was about 10 years ago. I went through a divorce, and the turning point for me was getting through that situation in that period of time and realizing my kids are got one foot out the door heading off to college. I now don't have a spouse to be with every day on a daily basis. I'm like, well, where did my purpose go? My purpose was to raise my family, raise my kids, maintain the financial part of the household, and now none of that's there. And I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? And I mentioned earlier, I was on another podcast earlier today. We were talking about how that particular period in time can drive a lot of depression into men, and realizing that, oh my God, all this value that I thought I had, now it's diminished to all I have is this job. And in some cases where that job is maybe not fulfilling, which mine isn't still, it still isn't. I mean, I I've had a good career. I've done a lot in my career. I've been um, financially in good shape for most of my career, but it really doesn't fuel my passions on a daily basis. What fuels my passions is serving people, and bottom line is helping people become better, whether men or women, doesn't really matter. I do coach women. I have coached women, but I just prefer to stick with the guys because I think it's a very underserved um, population of people, and as difficult as it is to kind of crack the code of how to get into a man's mind a little bit and say, hey man, there's honestly something better for you than this hamster wheel that you've been on for a decade or two, or however long they've been. That just it's opening those possibilities and giving them a place to kind of explore that and open up a place to where they can have a conversation in a non-judgmental way, and kind of go, oh wow, I didn't realize that's what I was missing, and then kind of take them on that journey to find where they want to go.
Steve, well, first off, it's a pleasure to have you on here, Bob, but I'm kind of curious, how long over that 10-year journey did it take you to realize your true purpose, from the divorce till like finding your first steps to being an advocate for men in that sort of space?
It took about 3 years because my divorce, I started the divorce process in 2013, and in 2016 I hired my first coach. And within the first month or so of that experience, one of the things we did was it was actually called writing how to write a purpose statement, and it was this long kind of Q&A of fact, what are your values? What kind of things do you like to do? It even asks what is your favorite song? What's your favorite movie? And you take all of these pieces, and what it ends up for, it helps you realize really what you never kind of sat back and looked at. For at least to that point, I was about 45 years old. I had never sat down and looked at taking all those pieces together and go, oh, wait, there's a thread here and there's a thread there. And where my thread was, it was in service. I wanted to be in service of other people. I wanted to be there for people. The kind of the one thing that always sticks out to me about that is one of the questions is, what's your favorite movie? My favorite movie is Top Gun. Now, cliche as that could be for a white male, it's just, but what it helped me to see was, with all the other questions and things that I answered, what it showed me was that I wanted to be in service. I wanted to be a helper or a healer or somebody that guides guides other people in a place towards a goal and achieve something really big. So that helped me form that purpose statement. At that point I developed was to, oh God, now it's not gonna come to me because I'm on the spot. It's been 2 years since I used it, to express and inspire love and wellness within myself and to others. That was the statement that I came out of that exercise with, and it was just like, and it gave me permission to dive in and do what it was I want to do. And then right after that, I started taking a coaching certification course.
So do you feel that a lot of guys nowadays, we just get stuck in the trap of constantly working, never really looking at what we want to do with life more than work? Because most times we're going to work at like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock sometimes, and we're not getting back till 5, 6, depending on how long the travel is. And by the time we get home, we sit down, we spend a bit of time with our partner or help with the kids, it's already 10 o'clock at night. And we don't have any time to look at what we're doing and how we want to do it, and really just setting that time aside to say, no, I will do something for myself. I will pursue a passion I have, or I will open that small business and see what I can do. Because we, more often than not, just put those dreams and aspirations to the side. Then 5 years rolls past, 10 years, 15, 20, and you're like, shit, I haven't done anything. And it's never too late to start anything. Like one of my big role models is Gary Vee. He's an amazing person. He didn't make it big until he was 34. And it just goes to show that you can spend a long time not knowing.
Absolutely.
Shit. And all of a sudden, all it takes is that one and the right change.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I did. I was on that hamster wheel for 20 years. I'd go to work, I'd come home, like you said, spend a little time with the family and do it all again the next day. And I had this overwhelming urge. And it's funny because how it used to manifest with me was I had at one point in my career, I had an hour-long commute from home to my office was an hour. And I remember driving on the highway and seeing the trucks, like work vans, like Bill's Heating and Cooling and Joe's Plumbing and things like that. And I always remember being jealous of those guys that they got their name, they decided to take that leap, start that business, put their name on the side of the van and put it out there for the world to see. And that was something that always pulled at me. And even in high school, I remember, or actually it might have been college. In college, I wanted to, there's an organization, I think it's called something different about it. It used to be student painters, where as a college student, they would set you up, they would show you all the things you had to buy and how to market and how to do all that stuff. And then you go and paint people's houses all summer. And I remember wanting to do that really, really bad. And because I had this entrepreneurial bug, I wanted to have my own business. And my parents talked me out of it. They, you got to go, you got to go do this hourly gig because, you'll know how much money you're going to have at the end of the summer. You can use that for the school year. If you do this, you're on your own. You could make $1, you could make $1 million. Nobody knows. And so they talked me out of it. And I just remember regretting letting that happen because it was really something at that point. It was like a visceral, I want to do this. I want to be an entrepreneur. And I think if I had been able to do that, I might have gotten on this path quicker than staying on the path, going and getting my degree, which was really not even in the line of work that I do. And now riding that career for, 30 plus years. So,
well, the thing is to remember is you wouldn't be where you are today without those choices. You might be in a completely different life path with no family at all or no children. It's hard to predict what things could have been like if we go the what ifs, what I could have done and what I should have done. And that's where it can be a tricky conversation to have with yourself because it leads you down a dark path more often than not. Like I could have done a million things. Like I had the opportunity to buy crypto when it was like 10 cents a coin. And now look at it. It's at what, 150,000 a coin.
yeah.
So like there's definitely times when you look back in your life, you're like, shit, I should have invested in that or should have done that. Even Apple stock. Back when Apple stock was a few dollars per stock. And it's insane to think that it's a multi-million-dollar company or $1 billion company now. I'm not exactly sure, but looking back on those past mistakes and realizing sometimes things were meant to be. Sometimes we're meant to walk a path of life that we're not quite sure of where it's going to lead us. So you might have needed that 20 years of doing it, 30 years, I think it was, you said, doing that work for you to understand that what your true purpose was. And it was helping people. It was running your own business, but doing something that's more impactful than just painting houses per se. Actually changing people's lives.
I just wish I wish I could have been changing lives sooner in my life because it's so fulfilling now. I understand what you're saying. It's just I wish I could have been doing what I do now longer and had more impact on more people just because I feel like it's really important. And what I've been doing for the last 30 years has been important for my family and my core of my being. But again, I feel like I missed a little bit of doing more things for more people.
Yeah, it's definitely like that where you miss out on opportunities around you and you feel like there's so much time that's been lost. But to remember, you're only in your 50s. There's so much time ahead of you still. Like that's the thing is
Actually, I have to show you something.
Go for it.
I don't know if this show up with my screensaver, but I have a yardstick that I've colored. You can see the black, and it's about it's about 2/3 the way. That represents 85 years of hopefully at least 85 years of my life, maybe more, maybe less. Who knows, right? We don't know. I could be here, not be here tomorrow, but that's the portion of my life that I have left. So I keep track of that so I can stay motivated and stay focused on, I've had this much time on earth and I have this much left and I gotta make hay while the sun shines.
Well, that's exactly it. Just because you are the age you are, it doesn't stop you from having any more of an impact or any less of an impact. You can still change a lot of lives in a very short amount of time. Like in like the space of 12 to 24 months, you could turn your entire life around, be running a multi-person successful business that is coaching husbands or ex-husbands coming out of divorces, and helping young men choose the right type of woman to be with by giving them the right types of relationship advice and coaching and stuff like that. There's so many opportunities for you to be had.
Yeah, and I'm working towards that. So
You had a question, Linda?
Yes, I do. So, Bob, I've been hearing as you've been speaking, there's been something that's been coming up repeatedly as you've been speaking, and so that's that whole concept of permission. You mentioned how you would have gone into entrepreneurship, but you didn't really have your parents' permission. You were wanting to do several things, and so I think you might have what you call cracking the code. and in this work that you do as a coach, it's all about not needing to ask everyone else's permission. It's to ask, I guess, your own permission. Can I do this? Do I want this? Will I go do that? And so would you say that part of cracking that code has to do with that piece of permission when you're working with your men clients? Because I'm thinking it's got to be, because looking for, someone to say, yes, you can go do it before you'll do it. That's the one thing that stops most people. It stops me in particular from going and doing that said thing. So can you speak to that for me?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Is I felt like that for a long time. Obviously, felt like I couldn't do what it was my heart desired to do, and that's what I want the guys out there to know, is that you can do what you want to do. You're only responsible to yourself. Actually, I think I made a social media post yesterday about not living basically to make your spouse happy. I spent a lot of years doing everything I could to make her happy. And it never really worked out. And it ended up not working out, and we separated. So yeah, you got to do for yourself. I mean, there's an amount of taking care of other people, of course, being a servant and being but you got to take care of yourself. Like Mikeul said earlier, getting up and going to work for 8, 10, 12 hours a day plus commute time and all that doesn't leave much time for you to take, do the self-care stuff. And that's what I was missing out on, and that's what I learned through that process. Hang on one second.
You're right, buddy.
The neighbor's dog is barking incessantly in the backyard. Taking that time for yourself out of that busy day, carving out time, whether it's for I spend a lot of time in prayer, meditation, spend a lot, stretching, working out, exercising, keeping myself moving, keeping all the the stress and things that wound up in a body and a mind through an 8-hour workday, and being able to purge those out and be able to stay open-minded and clear for conversations with my wife, or conversations with my kids or my parents or whatever, and then running a business on the side.
I think it's something that I say to people, especially when they're in a relationship, is establishing clear communications with your partner, sitting down with him or her and saying, I want to start working on something a bit bigger than my own, like working for this company. I want to maybe potentially start my own business or just pursue some more hobbies. Whether that's just carving out time for the pair of you to go for like a mountain hike or something, or to take the kids on a nice trip, and just doing things more regularly instead of just working the 9 to 5, and then small issues turn into bigger issues, and it just goes around in a vicious cycle. And if they don't want to start a business with you or don't want to pursue that type of thing, you just say to them, well, between these times, I'm going to be a little bit more distant in these hours, but I want to do things for myself. And you're invited to come along with me and participate in what I'm doing, or you can do your own thing during these times.
Yeah. Actually, that's almost the kind of the conversation my wife and I had this morning. I was like, I've got 2 podcasts to record today. You know, I'm going to be from this time to this time, and from this time to this time. You know, I'm going to be in the office, the door closed, keep the dogs from barking, all that stuff, and just being able to have that communication so she knows. You know, and she's very supportive, and that's another thing about partnerships and spousal relationships that I always talk to people about too, is having somebody going in up front, knowing that you've got that person's support. Because like you said, if not, if she was going to give me a hard time for, you know, I got to go into the office here at 8:30 at night to record a podcast, you know, this is our time. You know, she's flexible because we get to spend, we make intentional time to spend with each other other days of the week. But then when a day comes up where I've got to work, then she's cool with that. And having that dialogue and that agreement and understanding of each other, and she does the same thing.
It's good to have those types of flexible relationships where you're able to still have fun when you want to, but know that sometimes you're going to be preoccupied or pre-booked. One of the questions that I actually had for you is, how did you find your current partner after divorce and stuff like that? Did you just go to like a pub and sort of find her, or did you go to like a dating site? Because I'm kind of curious for a man of your age of where you would have found such a lovely lady such as her.
Yeah, it was online, amazingly enough. Fortunately, I think it was 10 years ago, so it was maybe not as weird as it is. I know it was kind of it wasn't new back then either, but I've heard from a lot of people now that dating online is you know, a quagmire of ghosting and failed relationships. But we got lucky. Very lucky, actually. She was one of the first people I connected with, actually, when I decided to jump on. And yeah, we've been together for almost 11 years now, and we've been married for 5 of that. So
Oh, congratulations! And that's what I thought I'd just ask, because I was kind of curious, and especially 10 years ago, the dating scene online was completely different to what it is now. You couldn't be more right with what you said, with it being very quagmire almost. It's just a shit show, to say the least.
I was trying
I'm
to
in
be
the
nice.
dating scene.
You called it like it is.
Oh yeah, I'm directed to the point because I'm in the dating scene right now online, and it's like that. It feels like women are afraid of commitment. They just want a quick, fun thing, and that's about it. And finding a woman with old school values is far and few between, I find. A lot of them self-centered, worry about money, your height, your eye color before they actually worry about your personality and who you are at heart. And that's the thing that matters the most. You can look like a bag of garbage or a bag of diamonds. It doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. It's what matters on the inside. And that's what I think is lacking nowadays. Most people judge someone by their looks. They don't even get to know the person. And it is sad to see that a lot of those old school values have gone out the window. I wish we could
funny. I
take
hear
a
the
couple
same
steps
thing.
back.
Funny, I hear the same thing from women's side too, though, that guys are only in it for, you know, the one night stands, and there's no men that want commitment. So
Oh, that's exactly it. It
funny.
is both
I hear the
sides.
same thing from both sides. It's kind of
Yeah.
ironic.
I think it's because today's generation just don't care. My generation, because I'm 27, my generation and under, we're very short attention spans, very closed-minded. We only care about ourselves, and it takes a certain level of emotional intelligence to understand these things and ask yourself, like, well, what do I actually want out of life? What do I want out of a partner? What do I want to achieve with that person? What type of partner would I like to have? And it takes time to understand these answers. No one has these answers straight off the bat. I couldn't have said that I wanted this type of lady when I was 18, because at 18, I was a promiscuous, get it around a lot. Let's just say that. I got around a lot. And now I look back on my years, I'm like, I do regret the actions in which I've taken, but I wouldn't have the knowledge in which I have without those past mistakes.
And that's part of, you know, that's part of being a man is learning. Oh, and a woman too, is learning what you want. Who, you know, what kind of people do you like? What kind of people don't you like? What are your boundaries? What are you willing to put up with? What are you not willing to put up with? I was having a conversation today with a friend that she was freaking out about, you know, this guy that, you know, he was when he's not working, he's all up in her, texting and interacting and all that. But when he's at work, he's like radio silent, and he'll do it for days. And she's kind of freaking out because that, she's not used to that. And I was like, well, what's your boundary? Is your boundary, is this acceptable to be in a relationship with this kind of thing going on? Or would you rather let that relationship go and start over and be looking again, which nobody wants to be doing, right? So it's a matter of choices and learning what your boundaries are and what you can put up and what you can't.
Well, that's exactly right. And it is asking yourself these deep, sort of meaningful questions. And one that I often find a lot of people haven't asked is, what's your legacy want to be? What do you want to leave behind when you pass away? And that's where I think a lot of guys just don't think about those questions. They think about the here and now. They think about tomorrow's work day and next week's paycheck. Because I find a lot of people just don't realize that life is long, but it's also short at the same time.
Yeah.
You can blink and you're already 10 years through the future and you're like, shit, where did those years go? What happened? What didn't I do? What should have I done more purposefully? Like, should I have started my own business? Should I have done this? And instead of saying I should have, just do it. Just say, shit, like, I'm just going to start today. There's no ifs, buts, and whens. I'm going to try to make something out of nothing, so to speak, and leave a legacy for my cousins and stuff like that, my nieces and nephews, all my own kids. And it's just finding what works for you. So for you, it's honestly coaching. It's helping other people through those difficult times with the life advice in which you have and the knowledge in which you have. And for other people, it could be making a business that's centered around stress balls or something, like something that still helps people out, but it's a different type of thing. Like, we each of us have got our own purpose and we all want to leave our own legacy, and it's finding what works best for us with the talents in which we have and what we want to pursue.
Yeah, for sure.
So is there anything you'd like to touch upon here, Linda?
As I've been listening, you guys have both been saying a bunch of great things. And so the themes I'm really hearing about, relationships, to have a good one, it starts with communication and being able to know what you want and communicate that effectively. And I really, it got to me when you guys were talking about how you each in a relationship can have different roles and different things that you want to do, your passions, and they may not be the same. And the person may or may not be supportive or understand what you're doing. However, you can communicate that I'm going to do this thing during these times. And then when we're doing our together time, it'll be during this other time. And you can choose if you want to go on the journey with me during this time where I'm doing these things, or you can choose to do your own thing. So that way there's choices about where a person wants to spend their time. And, the thing that I did want to mention, when you know what you want and communicate it, and you also extend that invitation to your partner, that's when things come together really nicely. Because I can say that in most relationships, the two people involved aren't necessarily going to like each other's hobbies and want to be a part and do them. They may want to do maybe part of them, or at least at nothing else, they'll be supportive that the fact that you have a hobby outside of them, because nobody wants to be the sole support and everything to make them complete. And, and I see a relationship as the best and most healthy when two people can do the things that they have passion around, and they don't require anyone's permission, or that even someone comes along and does it with them, because that can be a dividing point in a relationship, is when you have a passion, the other person doesn't really want to get in or validate or see it. And so where does that leave you? And so you can have that agree to disagree, but yet have growth on both sides. And eventually, with the communication being open and honest, and saying where you would need the person to come in when you're going down this journey that maybe they're not 100% on, it comes together at a point. Why am I saying all of this? Because it's not a men or a women's issue. It's a people issue. And I've experienced that myself. I've spoken before how I have had a passion outside of my profession that I love and enjoy and will do until the day that I die. And for a very long time, my partner couldn't see it. And he just couldn't see why I would want to do these said things. And eventually I just said that, maybe you're not going to come down this journey with me, but this is my journey to have, just like I may or may not be showing up 100% to do what you're doing, but I support it because it makes you happy. You support
Mhm.
the person's dream or vision because it makes them happy. And then you do the things that make you happy. And then everyone quits thinking that they have to ask permission or that someone's being excluded. Because I actually sat down with a coach and said, what is going on here? Why is there this divide? Why can't he be happy for me? And then the shock of my life happened. It was because I was choosing something where he didn't necessarily have a purpose in it. And so he was being left out. And I thought,
Mm.
oh, light bulb came on. So now that I know that, okay, if everyone in the relationship is having a purpose and there's meaning to it and we're being inclusive, again, that conversation that this is going to be my time to do this thing and this is going to be our time to do this thing. The moment you start having those conversations and then communicating and allowing the other person, inviting the other person to do it, things are great. And it took,
Yeah.
I don't know, probably a good decade before that this could happen. And I'm glad that it did, because no one wants to throw in the towel and start over, you know. Sometimes that may happen. I mean, you described that, Bob, but I think that through everything that you've been through, you've found who you're supposed to be with, want to be with, and it works. So, your path may not have been the one that you chose, but it's the one that you're on. And, choosing to work with other men who may be experiencing many of the same things that you did. And if you can get to them, so it doesn't take them a decade to figure out how to come to the other side, then that's
Yeah.
wonderful. And so, service to others. Hands down, I agree with you, because I'm in that same space, service to others. But I'm best to serve others when I serve myself and carve out, without permission, the things that I need to do and communicate it. And it took a long time to get there, because I always thought, keep the peace, don't bring it up. So, that communication piece wasn't happening. I was withholder. Instead I was getting resentful and angry. And so you're hearing, a lot of things going through my journey. And, it happens for a lot of us, because chances are there's other people going through the same things. And maybe you don't talk about it because it's not always easy. It's messy. You got to get underneath the hood. And, there's times I wish there was an operator or owner's manual to men, because if I could have that, unlock the code of what works and what doesn't, and I could have had that sooner, I'd be in a better place. So that's why I serve men too, because from a woman's perspective, I can say, I felt these things, I've been through these things, and this is my perspective, my experience on this. Maybe your experience is similar and I can help you, or maybe it's different and you can help me. I've learned a lot of things from the men in my life, and as well as women, because I work with men and women, but I choose to work, like you said, in the underserved space, men, because it's important and needed. And that's where I show up every day to help. And I have a lot of support with a lot of women. A lot of women watch the men's room show. I'm going to tell you that right now. and it's because of that reason, because they want to know better how to support the men in their life. And so helping men to become better men. Everyone wins in society when we do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else you'd like to touch upon here, Bob, and even ask us some questions?
Nothing's really coming to me at this point.
Yep. I've got one for you though. What's one of the most common things that you've seen with some of the clients in which you've had? What's their main issue that they're constantly facing? Is it something like communication or lack of there, or is it something that's a bit more specific?
Yeah, I would say mostly it's a self-confidence thing. A lot of people have, and I talked about this earlier today too. A lot of us have some kind of trauma that we've experienced in our life that we don't even realize was having it. We don't realize that it happened, first of all, because it probably happened when we were age 4 or less. And what we didn't realize it happened, and we don't realize the impact it's actually having on us today and has had on us since that day. For example, I realized several years ago that my parents' wedding anniversary was in October, and I was born in May. So if you do the math, that's not quite 10 months. So that means I was conceived before they were married. What I've learned since then in having conversations with both of my parents is that, yeah, things were a little crazy. It was like all of a sudden, oh my God, we have a baby on the way. What are we going to do? How are we going to deal with it? We're not married. We got to get married, but this is in the late 60s, so things were a lot different than they are now. Stigmas and expectations and appearances and all that kind of stuff in a small community. So trying to figure out how they were going to navigate all that, what that was doing to me as I was in utero was I'm still feeling all these feelings of the stress that my mom and dad were going through. I'm sure they were having discussions and maybe arguments and God knows what else was going on. And all of that energy was being absorbed into my body and into my cells. And with the meaning that my very undeveloped brain had at that point was to say, well, you're going to cause a problem no matter where you go. You're not really going to be part of anything, specific because you weren't planned, or, you don't necessarily belong, or you don't really exist. And all of those things are going around in my head, and I'm feeling that even though I didn't realize it until I was almost 50 years old, that's really what caused a lot of these things that happen in from elementary school to high school to college to all of the ways and the things that happened to me during my first marriage. And it was just like, holy cow, that I couldn't believe that something happened when before I was even born, impacted that and really reoccurred as a theme throughout my entire life. And that's what, men, women, doesn't matter. People don't realize that those things that happen to us when we're that young can impact us in such a profound way all through our whole entire lives. And that's one of the tools that I have when I work with people is we can get into those weeds, figure out what that is. And it's not like we're going to fix it, right? We can't go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years and fix these things, but it's the knowledge of having that clarity of, okay, this is what happened, and this is why this reoccurred throughout my life. Now I can, put an end to it or change it or at least make sense of it so I can move forward and get out of my own way and be able to do the things I want to do because I no longer have this burden of, this thing that happened decades ago.
It definitely takes time to go through these lessons and understand them correctly and interpret them. So that's where I've had a lot of childhood trauma and things like that have happened to me, but I understand that just because of what's happened in my past doesn't define my future. And I use the actions in which I had happened to me when I was younger as more of a positive thing to be the opposite of what happened, to be a better version, to be the best version of myself. And it took me 12 years of pissing my life down the drain to realize that. And only now have I really started living. It's probably similar to you as how you've went through the divorce and stuff like that, and you've been through so long, and now only after all that do you feel like you're living quite like truthfully. Now you're doing what you love, how you love it. You feel probably happier than you ever have before. It takes time to find our life's journey, I guess, and what we're destined for, what we're meant to be doing, and nothing is set in stone. Your journey could change in 12 months, 24 months. You could be on a completely different life path that's 10 times more rewarding. We just don't know where life's going to lead us sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see with an entrepreneurial mindset, things can change rapidly. Things can change in ways in which we didn't first anticipate, and a lot of them does have a positive. It's just looking at it in the right perspective.
Yeah, sure.
So did you want to ask anything there, Linda?
I just wanted to know, Bob, you and I were talking about how you offer an elite men mastermind. And
Mhm.
so I'm wondering with that newest program, if you could share with us what a man could come out with. You know, he takes the step to commit to the program. What's going to happen when he completes that?
Yeah, well, it's really it's not a completion thing. It's really what completion is what you want it to be, first of all. I guess that's the answer to that. And really what the outcome is if a man has a goal from um something small and mundane maybe in his eyes, or something huge, like he wants to start a business, or he wants to improve his marriage, or whatever the case may be. That, I mean, it's really going to be um what the mastermind is going to do. It's going to be educational in a sense that I'm basically going to I'm going to provide kind of some foundational tools for men, from our standards that we use for men becoming better men. Um, some other pieces of coaching tools that I use with my one-on-one clients as well. Kind of do that in a group setting and use that as the foundation and basis for helping the men, first of all, level up. One of my mottos is become 1% better every day. So I want to be learning and growing and experiencing new things every day. But then also on the flip side of that is setting bold goals and having the accountability. Most of the time when we set goals, we don't have accountability. And that's a big part of what this group is going to be about. Is if I say, I want to lose 15 pounds by Thanksgiving, that's how we're going to support you. And we're going to make sure that you've got a tactical plan to do that. You understand what the roadblocks are that are in your way, the ways to get through those roadblocks. And then we're going to be checking in regularly. So if there's a goal that you have that you've just never been able to get traction on, that's what this group is going to be about, and that's going to be the biggest outcome, as well as improving relationships and setting boundaries. Even dating and things like that. Where we can cover the gamut. That's the beauty of the format that we have set up, and it's going to be very exciting, and I think it's going to be very rewarding for the men that engage in it.
I absolutely love the fact that your group doesn't have a beginning or an end. And so that means, you can go in and discuss all these different themes that could come up with the different men that come in and out of your group at any one time. And the fact that you can do that, you can be intentional about the conversations that you're going to have. And I think that's really beneficial to be able to enter such a group and not have to worry about missing something or catching up, or a theme catching on to another theme. And that's like life. I mean, we're never ever complete. We're always learning and growing. And so that model that you have really fits really well with how the world works. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and really, what I want to, I mean, the ultimate point of it is just to give men space to grow. Like Mikeul was saying earlier, we're in this go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home. There's not a lot of space in that to be creative and really think about what is it that I want for my life, and to give them the space and the area to do that, and then be inspired by the other men that are maybe coming in and say, yeah, I have this big audacious goal, and the other guy's sitting there, well, I just want to be able to wake up tomorrow morning, and maybe that inspires him to look at the bigger picture and find what his passion is and go for it, because that's where the juice is at.
Here at the Men's Room Show, we want to support you in this. And so we want you to be able to share the link of how men can find you so they can be a part of this group. So if you would share that with us, we'll also share it in the notes for the podcast.
Yep. Yeah, it's basically everything is through my website right now. It's www.menbecomingbettermen.com, all one word. you can go there. I also have a free ebook there as well. It's called The 5 Blatant Lies That Men Believe, Most Men Believe, and What to Do About Them. So you can find that there as well. You can also find the application information and the application for the Men Becoming Elite Men Mastermind as well. There's some information there on Men Becoming Better Men, which is it's a local in-person version of the group, which it's not going to be as deep as what the Elite Man Mastermind will be, but it is local here in the Detroit area, so that there's that offering as well. And then the last part is one, if really group things aren't your thing and you just want to talk one-on-one, we can have that conversation about what that looks like as well.
Excellent.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure with having you on today, Bob, and I look forward to possibly having a future episode or two with you. And yeah, I wish you all the best endeavors with your business and what you're doing, buddy. But I'm gonna close it off for the day. So I hope everyone has enjoyed this podcast, and I'll talk to you all next time.
All right, thanks.